Ragnar once bit through a plasma rifle because it hummed too loudly, and that was the moment I realized the galaxy had no idea what kind of trouble it had invited when it allowed humanity onto the stage. My name is Dr. Adrian Cole, xenobiologist, professional moss collector, part-time father, and full-time fool for thinking Kepler. 42b would be peaceful. On paper, this world is unremarkable. Its thin atmosphere tastes of copper. Its seas are half-frozen brine, and its nights burn with two moons that stare like watchful eyes. But there's beauty here too. Bioluminescent vines that dance in twilight winds, insects that hum in chords instead of buzz, and soil that glitters faintly under starlight. It is, in short, the kind of place you could fall in love with if you're stubborn enough to ignore how easily it wants to kill you. That stubbornness runs in the family. Lila, my daughter, is 8 years old and insists she will be the first child to catalog alien dinosaurs, by which she means anything with more than 2 legs and a hint of menace. She has the disarming gift of looking predators in the eye and saying something utterly inappropriate like, "Do you lay eggs?" She frightens me more than any alien ever could, because she has inherited the human curse, unshakable curiosity. And then there's Ragnar. Ragnar is a genetically enhanced honey badger, though enhanced feels misleading. Enhanced suggests order, intention. Ragnar is chaos distilled into fur and muscle. His eyes glow faintly green in the dark. His claws are metal hard. His teeth cut through alloy as though it were fruit. He decided, long before I had a say, that Lila and I were his pack. He guards us not with loyalty, but with the absolute certainty that the universe belongs to him, and anything that disagrees is temporary. Together, we are an unlikely family. A man cataloging moss, a girl dreaming of dinosaurs, and a creature that makes nightmares retreat. For months we lived in quiet rhythm. Lila sketching glowing plants, Ragnar patrolling, me writing dry reports that no one read. The Galactic Council had granted humanity a research permit only as a joke, expecting us to waste it. Instead, I shipped them folders of data and footnotes they ignored. That was fine. Science rarely needs applause. Then the Vornari came. Their ships fell across the horizon like dark suns, blotting out the sky. The ground quaked as their landing craft settled near our dome. From them poured warriors, scaled, towering, armored in obsidian plates that glistened as if wet with oil. Their spears pulsed with energy, their jaws lined with teeth honed for flesh. At their center stood Captain Croft, tall as a nightmare, eyes like embers trapped in ice. His voice rumbled across the plain, amplified for spectacle. You trespass on Vornari hunting grounds. The penalty is tribute. Your offspring will suffice. I froze. My mind went blank, a scream trapped behind my ribs. I wanted to speak, to fight, to throw myself before Lila, but I couldn't move. The air itself felt nailed down. And Lila, my impossible child, folded her arms and frowned. I'm not delicate, she said. I know 18 dinosaur names. The warriors barked laughter, cruel and sharp. Croft did not laugh. His eyes lingered on her like a butcher inspecting meat. That was when Ragnar moved. No growl announced him. No roar warned of his charge. One heartbeat, he sat by my boot, grooming a claw. The next, he was a storm of fur and fury, launching into a Vornari soldier's leg with a sound like tearing metal. Armor split. Flesh yielded. The warrior screamed, staggering, while Ragnar clung with claws buried deep, teeth gnashing, body twisting like a drill bit. Another soldier lunged, blade crackling. Ragnar spun, slammed into him, tore through his knee. The blade fell. Ragnar shredded the hand that held it. Energy nets fired, ensnaring him in crackling light. He tore free, chirping cheerfully, as if daring them to try again. Blood slicked the ground. Panic spread. The hunters, feared across star systems, recoiled from something no larger than a sack of potatoes with teeth. Through it all, Lila cheered as though watching a Saturday morning cartoon. Go, Ragnar. Bite his tail. I should have dragged her away. I should have shielded her eyes. Instead, I stood frozen between terror and awe, watching as my companion dismantled warriors bred for violence. The galaxy was watching too. What I had not known was that Council monitors recorded every sanctioned research outpost. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds saw it live. Apex predators fleeing from a 20-pound mammal who treated them as chew toys. The broadcast spread like fire in dry grass. Memes bloomed before blood cooled. Hashtags multiplied. Jokes about Earth's murder weasels filled alien forums. The incident would later be called the Kepler incident. At the time, it was simply survival. Kroth, wounded but unbroken, bellowed a retreat. His warriors dragged each other back to their ships, armor shredded, pride destroyed. Ragnar padded back to us, muzzle red, eyes bright, chirping as though proud of a successful hunt. He curled by Lila's feet and promptly fell asleep. Silence fell across the plain. I dropped to my knees, shaking, clutching my daughter, who rolled her eyes and muttered, "Dad, it's fine." He does that of vacuum cleaners too. But it was not fine. Nothing would ever be fine again. Within hours, transmissions poured in, council inquiries, military demands, news requests. The Vornari screamed about human aggression. The council whispered about ecological weapons. We had, without intention, overturned centuries of balance. The moss I cataloged no longer mattered. The data meant nothing. In one blood-soaked afternoon, a honey badger had shifted galactic law. That night, as Lila slept and Ragnar snored on his stolen armor plate, I stared at the stars. Fear gnawed at me, but beneath it was something else, defiance. The galaxy thought us weak, naive, harmless. They were wrong. We are human. We protect what is ours. We guard the small lights we love, no matter the cost. And perhaps that is the lesson. Reader, greatness is not measured by strength, nor by the size of one's claws, but by the refusal to surrender those we cherish, even when the universe demands tribute. Ragnar once stole a diplomat's ceremonial headdress, shredded it into ribbons, and fell asleep inside the remains like it was a nest. And that, apparently, is when half the galaxy decided humanity was hiding weapons in plain sight. The summons came within days of the Kepler incident. A council ship descended with all the subtlety of a funeral procession, its hull gleaming with sigils of law and judgment. They didn't ask us to come. They demanded it. Lila was unimpressed, sketching the ship's engines in her notebook, while Ragnar tried to climb its landing struts until a horrified envoy begged me to stop him. I didn't. It was the first time I'd seen an alien diplomat sweat. The journey to Aether Prime took a week through slipstream corridors, a week in which my daughter grew bored, Ragnar grew restless, and I grew increasingly aware that I was about to defend a honey badger in front of the most powerful beings in existence. My stomach churned every time I imagined their questions. My answers all sounded like madness. Yes, he eats armor plating. No, I can't control him. Yes, he is family. No, we didn't mean to terrify an empire. Aether Prime shimmered against the void like a jewel on black velvet. The orbital stations stretched in arcs of silver and glass, a cathedral of governance where words weighed more than weapons. We docked amid fleets gathered to ensure order. In truth, they were here to keep Ragnar from tearing through the station. Inside the grand chamber, the spectacle was overwhelming. Thousands of delegates filled tiered balconies. Beings with translucent skin through which thoughts pulsed in color, insectoid swarms that spoke in clicking choirs, Leviathan diplomats floating in containment spheres of liquid. The air reeked of sterilized steel and fear. Counselor Valen, the presiding voice, rose at the center dais. Their body resembled carved ice, each word resonating like wind across frozen plains. Dr. Adrian Cole of Earth, you stand accused of introducing a biological terror into council space. Do you deny that your honey badger is a weapon of mass destabilization? My mouth dried. I glanced at Lila, who sat swinging her leg beside me, unbothered, humming a pop song under her breath. Ragnar sprawled at her feet, snoring, the very picture of harmlessness, if you ignored the claw marks etched into the polished floor. I straightened. If you think Ragnar is a weapon, you've never tried brushing his fur. He's family, not ordnance. Ripples of amusement fluttered through the human delegation. The rest of the chamber sat like carved statues, unimpressed. Then Captain Croth appeared, bandaged, limping, but his presence still filled the chamber like a shadow. His voice cracked with venom. No beast could slay Vornari warriors as this one did. It is engineered. Earth has declared war through deception. I wanted to argue, to shout, but before I could, Lila stood, glaring up at the giant lizard. He didn't start it. He tried to take me. She lifted her notebook and thrust it out. Also, I drew you as a chicken. Want to see? The chamber erupted. Some laughed. Others hissed. Croth snarled, and I realized too late what he intended. He lunged. Time fractured. The gauntlet on his arm swung toward my daughter, claws glinting in council light. My body surged forward, desperate but slow, every movement too late. Ragnar was not late. He launched upward with a sound like tearing thunder, slamming into Croth mid-strike. Claws shredded armor, teeth clamped on the captain's throat, blood sprayed across the dais. Croth screamed, staggered, collapsed. The chamber dissolved into chaos, delegates shrieking, guards raising weapons, alarms wailing. But the cameras caught everything. Every angle, every moment, every drop of blood. Billions across the galaxy watched, not as an ambush, but as self-defense. A predator punished for preying on a child. When silence finally returned, Counselor Valen's voice was clear, crystalline. The precedent is set. Resolution 1127 is hereby passed unanimously. Threatening human offspring shall henceforth be considered an act of war against Earth's entire ecosystem. The honey badger doctrine was born. I sagged in my chair, heart hammering, hands shaking. Lila stroked Ragnar's blood-stained head as though he'd merely fetched a stick. The little beast chirped happily, unconcerned that he had just rewritten law across 1,000 worlds. The consequences unfolded immediately. Envoys buzzed with panic. Some feared humanity's potential. Others whispered about alliances. News feeds looped Ragnar's attack, turning him into both meme and menace. Military academies studied the footage as though it were scripture. And I, a moss-obsessed scientist, was suddenly rebranded as ambassador of Earth's most dangerous truth, our refusal to surrender our children. That night, in the quarters assigned to us, Lila asked the question that had been festering in my own chest. Dad, are we bad now? Like dangerous? Her voice was fragile in the quiet. I sat beside her, brushing hair from her forehead. Ragnar snored between us, dreaming violent dreams. I thought of Croth's blood on the dais, of billions watching, of a new law etched into galactic record. No, I said finally. We're not dangerous. We're human. That's different. Dangerous things kill for pride. We fight because we love. She considered that, nodded, and whispered, then Ragnar's just really good at loving. I laughed, though my chest ached with the weight of truth. The galaxy would never see it that way. To them, Ragnar was a weapon. To me, he was family. And perhaps that is the paradox worth remembering. Reader, what terrifies the mighty is not our power, but our tenderness sharpened in a clause when love is threatened. Ragnar once dragged an ambassador's hovercar into our dome and slept inside it like a trophy. And that was when I realized Earth hadn't been invited to the galactic table. We'd stormed into the banquet with muddy boots and dared anyone to kick us out. 6 months had passed since the honey badger doctrine. 6 months since a council chamber gasped as Ragnar tore through Captain Croth and law itself bent around an 8-year-old child with tangled hair. In that time, our Moss station had transformed into something unrecognizable. The sign above the hatch now read Embassy of Earth, though the paint was uneven because Ragnar had bitten the scaffolding mid-construction. What was once a quiet research dome now throbbed with alien delegates, armored guards, and more bureaucratic paperwork than I could ever hope to finish. Lila thrived in the chaos. She marched through the halls with the unearned confidence of a monarch, introducing Ragnar as Ambassador Murder Ferret to anyone who would listen. Strangely, many did. A delegation from the Kelthari asked if they could train under him. A diplomat from the Syrinx requested DNA samples. A merchant even tried to buy him, offering a cargo hold of precious metals. Lila declined the offer by declaring Ragnar priceless, like Chuck Norris. The aliens wrote the name down with reverent fear, unsure if it was a title or a threat. I did not thrive. Every day brought new demands, new suspicions. The council wanted assurances that Ragnar would not be weaponized. The Vornari screamed for vengeance, licking their wounds and plotting in the dark. And I, a scientist who once cared only for Moss, was forced to play diplomat, father, and reluctant guardian of Earth's new reputation. Unpredictable, stubborn, and terrifyingly protective. The real trouble began during the Festival of Accord, a ceremonial gathering meant to showcase unity. The dome's halls were draped in banners. Alien music hummed through the air, and dishes from 50 worlds filled the tables, none of which Ragnar respected, as he climbed onto the banquet and devoured an entire platter of roasted krellfish while horrified chefs wailed. The guests laughed nervously, unsure if it was charming or a declaration of war. That was when the Vornari struck. 3 of their war-cloaked assassins slipped into the hall, disguised as performers. They moved with precision, their scales painted with harmless pigments, their blades hidden in ceremonial staffs. Their target was clear, Lila, who sat cross-legged on the floor teaching a dignitary's offspring how to play tic-tac-toe. I saw them a second too late. The first staff arced downward toward her small frame. My heart stuttered, my lungs froze. I shouted, legs buckling into a sprint. But Ragnar was already there. He exploded from beneath the banquet table, a streak of fury and claws, intercepting the strike mid-swing. The staff splintered against his hide. He latched onto the assassin's arm, teeth crunching through armor, blood spraying across the floor. The other 2 lunged. Energy blades hissed to life, flashing like suns. Ragnar pivoted, dragging his prey into their path, forcing them to hesitate. The hall erupted into chaos, delegates screaming, guards raising weapons, alarms wailing. Lila clutched her notebook, eyes wide but unbroken. One assassin slashed toward her. I threw myself in front, raising my arm in pathetic defiance. The blade kissed the air, ready to end me. Ragnar struck like a hammer. He launched onto the assassin's chest, claws tearing through scales, jaws closing on the throat. The warrior shrieked, toppled, and fell silent. The last assassin turned to flee, only to be dragged down in a spray of teeth and fury. Ragnar's chirps echoed in the hall, bright, incongruous, almost cheerful, as he reduced the final threat to silence. When it ended, the floor was slick with blood, shattered weapons, and overturned platters. The music had died. The guests stood frozen, staring at the carnage. And then, slowly, one delegate began to clap. Another joined. Soon the hall thundered with applause, not for the assassination attempt, but for the beast that had stopped it. The assassination failed, but the message was clear. The Vornari would never forgive, never surrender, never stop. In the aftermath, the council convened once more. They declared the attack a violation of sacred ground. Sanctions rained down upon the Vornari, but whispers spread faster than law. Earth is untouchable. Harm their children, and even your nightmares will run. For me, the consequence was quieter, heavier. That night, when the dome was silent and Lila finally slept, I sat with Ragnar curled at my side. My hands trembled as I stroked his fur, still matted with blood. My daughter's laughter echoed faintly in my memory, defiant and bright even amid danger. And I understood. The galaxy did not fear our weapons, for we had few. It did not fear our armies, for they were small. It feared the one truth we carried like fire in our bones, that we would protect the fragile, the young, the foolish, with a fury that defied reason. That even our smallest guardians, honey badgers, duct tape, stubborn children, could overturn empires. The dome is louder now, busier, unbearably complicated. Delegates swarm, proposals flood, new laws are drafted in our name. Ragnar sleeps through it all, curled on stolen armor plating. Smug as the day he tore through an empire's pride. Lila, meanwhile, dreams bigger. She talks of visiting Earth to teach the Council about cats, certain they are even stranger than Ragnar. I do not doubt she is right. And me? I still catalog Moss, though the files now sit ignored under mountains of treaties. Sometimes I wonder if the galaxy will ever see us as more than chaos wrapped in fur. But then Lila laughs, Ragnar chirps, and I realize the truth. We are more than their fear. The galaxy calls him a weapon. I call him family. And perhaps, reader, that is the lesson worth carrying across the stars. Strength is not the roar of armies, nor the glare of warships, but the quiet, stubborn love that refuses to surrender the small lights entrusted to us. It is the defiance that says, you may break laws, bend empires, shatter peace, but you will not take what we love, not while we still draw breath.